Huh? Now I wait to see what the hell we're doing. Slide right up.
It's not the one we called up, is it? Man, that'd take a while.
And this is how you come down.
Here we are. Here we are on a typical West Coast schnotty day. But it's still paradise. It's windy, it's rainy, and I have to do repairs on multiple items outside. Kinda sucks. But oh well. But oh well. So I was going to jump in my other friend's boat again this morning, but had to pass. I got too many chores to do here. We almost lit the place on fire yesterday with my Zodiac, messing with the motor. I did a rookie move, and I hooked up the gas jug to it after the gas jug had sat. I guess I put it under the overhang roof on the outside of the shop, but when we were away it snowed. Probably covered it in snow and wicked it full of water, and I blasted water mixed gas into the motor yesterday, and it's an injected motor. And of course trying to fix it ourselves over here at the dock. Had a gas jug right there and a bowl of the nasty gas, and We're taking all the nasty gas out of it, spilling it, took the injectors out, sprayed a little brake clean in there to fire it up, pulled the cord, and it lit the whole thing on fire. I can do it. I can admit to doing dumb shit. My own fault. I beat myself up more than anybody could. Anyway, finally had to throw in the towel, got the fire out. And then what? Got it out of here. Of course, the mechanic shop up the road's closed. Whatever. I'll figure it out. But anyway, we're going to get some people heard today. Talk about some shit. That photograph yesterday was an odd photograph, right? And of course, there's going to be a lot of people that won't accept that as an authentic oddity or a capture of some kind of weird thing. But the source is absolutely credible. Absolutely. So, but one thing to think about that photo yesterday, a lot of people call it the Predator, the cloaking thing, just like the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, we've had we've had thousands of people report seeing this thing that looked like the cloaked thing in the Predator movie. We've had thousands of people see that and bring it here honestly and openly on the channel. Bravely. Right? And now there's also a woman hunter, I believe, who videotaped something like this going through the trees. Well, she's sitting in a deer stand. Most of the people here have seen it. Now we get a photo. Finally, a credible source delivers the photo. Then people think, you're going to believe that photo, you're whatever. Really? Well, believe it or not, I wasn't there, but believe it or not, take for you will or leave it. But the thing that adds up is it fully, you can describe it, identical to what thousands of people have testimonies of seeing the exact same thing with their eyeballs. Now you got a photo. Right? So it's hard to look away from a photo like that for me after I've heard from thousands of people who have seen exactly what they describe as exactly fitting what's in that picture. There we go. But it's the cloaking thing. Seeing a cloaked being, is that high on my radar? No. Moving along. I accept it as fact. There's too many of the people have seen this. For me, Roger, I got it. I get it. Now I'm going to keep moving up there. Why? Why, what, and why? Right? I don't need a million billion clues myself for one tiny drop in the bucket, which is a cloaked being. Here comes a seal coming right up to me to take a look at what might be going on. But anyway, that's the frustrating part about this, about seeking truth, is so many people, when you go along the ride, you see so many people stopping dead in their tracks and wasting not only years, but maybe possibly even a lifetime of looking at the same thing and not changing their focus to the why. Why, right? Why drives you further. Oh, wow. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Why not? I mean, these people have had you all looking at the same thing for years. Did you tell them to quit it? And quit mentioning it? Right? Oh, look at the dermal ridges. Look at the mid-tarsal breaks. 50 years later. Look at the dermal ridges. What could that be? Anyways, I'm babbling. I need a little more coffee. Excuse me. I'm babbling. This isn't scripted, and we're all together here at our coffee table, right? So, I'm going to have to shut off the camera for a second, though. I'm going to try to get a handful of emails all in a row so I can just keep rattling them off and not get all confused. Give me a second. All right, here we go. It is snotty out there. Just got a text from my buddy David Nino, who wants to do another bullshit session online. Is that okay? Now, what have we got here? Okay, let me get this one read first. What do we got? This is titled, "It Shook Us From Our Slumber." Hey Steve, I've been a fan of your channel for about a year now and I enjoy it very much. Very envious of your beautiful new home. Can't wait to see what you two make of it. I'm sure it will turn out wonderful. Thank you for the kind experience. Kind words. This might be an older email maybe. Anyway, on to my experience. Back in the summer 2000, my late husband and I decided to take a road trip from Canby, Oregon to Yellowstone. We rented a 30-foot Class A motorhome and had a great time touring the park. At the end of the week, it was time to head home, so we decided to take a different way home and exited the park through the north entrance. We drove a bunch of back roads to check out the scenery and wildlife. It was late afternoon when we decided to find a secluded spot next to a river or creek. We found the perfect spot down a dirt road about a mile or so, parked and grabbed our fishing rods to see if we could catch a couple trout for dinner. Unfortunately, we only hooked a couple of very small trout, which we released and decided was going to be sandwiches for dinner. We set up a card table so we could sit outside and enjoy the evening before going inside for the night. We played a few hands of cards before it was too dark to see and retired to the RV around 9 p.m. We left our card table, chairs, fishing rods, etc. outside, intending to pack it up in the morning after breakfast. We decided to watch a movie in bed before turning in, but both of us dozed off around 11 p.m. with the movie still playing. And all of a sudden, we were jolted awake by something that hit the back of the RV so hard, it made that 30-foot RV lurch forward. Whoa. We both bounded out of bed and were looking at each other asking, what the F was that? My husband quickly started up the motorhome and turned on the exterior lights while turning off the interior lights so we could see better. So we could see better what was out there. We did not see anything. My husband said that we should probably leave because he thought it would be a bad idea if we stayed. I asked him, what about our things outside? And he said, it can stay. It wasn't worth it because we don't know what was out there and everything can be replaced. So we sped out of there. We had planned on heading towards Red Lodge, Montana the previous day, so that's the direction we headed. This required us to traverse Beartooth Pass in the middle of the night with thick fog. That was a scary experience in itself. Anyway, this email is probably long. I do have a couple of experiences from when I was a child growing up in Oregon I'll send you soon. Good luck to you and Sarah, and my condolences to the loss of your horse friend, Macaroni. Okay, thanks. Appreciate the kind words, and that's that would scare the shit out of anybody. Launching a motorhome forward in the middle of the night, and obviously the thing's probably in park, right? That'd scare the crap out of anybody. But I wonder how much it made that whoever did it, I wonder how much it made them giggle when they did it. Right? Whoa. That's probably shit that I'd do if I was one of these people. For shits and giggles. Bunch of hunters, I mentioned this before. Bunch of hunters in Nordegg, Alberta, I believe, were elk hunting. And they were in a long fifth wheel trailer and hunting cap. And something picked up the whole back end of it and shook it back and forth a bunch of times and put it back on the ground with all the men in it. And they raced off to the RCMP station and reported it. Absolutely terrified. Kind of a fun thing for a big 10-foot tall human-like being to do for shits and giggles in the night, right? Crazy. Whew. All right. I moved inside. It is absolutely pouring out there. It's a little louder. Sitting on the deck with the rain pelting off of the windows and the door and shit around me. So, hello, Stevie. Thank you for all you do. My name is Angela, and I run a YouTube channel myself, where within the last few months I've shared my experiences with the Sasquatch beings, both here in rural Maryland, where I live, and in the Cotoctin Mountains of southern PA. Cotoctin, Cotoctin Mountains of southern PA. It all began a year or so ago during one of the many week-long visits I'd made to my sister's home in Fairfield, Pennsylvania. She lives at the foothill of the mountains. Each time I'd visit her, I would hear the house being banged on. The orbs caught on night cam and in plain sight. Changing rock formations almost every day in her yard. Huge trees driven feet into her ground during winter, when the ground was solid ice/cold. I've been with she and her husband as their house has been banged on multiple times. Orbs have been witnessed. Damage done to her deck and lawn destruction. The howling whistles and tree knocks, and yes, even cloaking I've witnessed there. After witnessing these events myself in person for over a year at her property, I began to have odd things happen at my residence in Carroll County, Maryland. Sykesville to be exact. My property is in a rural area of Maryland next to Piney Run Lake and surrounded by acres of woods. It all started on my property about 2 months ago when I heard loud banging on my garage door. Then a month ago I heard very familiar vocals coming from the woods and Piney Run Lake area. Pney Run Lake area. During this time, I came out of my house one morning to find a 58-inch staff driven 5 inches into my yard. It was a 2-inch thick stick/staff and had no signs of being driven into the ground by a hammer, etc. There were no storms the night before or heavy winds. I have lived at my property for over 20 years, and this has never happened before. The staff/stick that was driven 5 inches into my ground was a different type of wood than the tree it was next to. The staff was brought from somewhere else and driven into the ground, but not from either of the 2 trees that are in my yard. So I asked the Lord whether these beings were pushing back against me due to my exposing them on YouTube channel, and literally 2 days later, as was taking a photo of the evening sunset facing the acres of woods and lake area, a bright white orb flew right by my phone. There is no way I could have planned for this orb to just coincidentally fly by right as I was taking a photo. It flew a few yards away from me as I was taking a picture of the sunset, and I wasn't holding my phone up, just waiting for the orb to fly by. I saw that as confirmation to the Lord, to my prayers, whether it was a Sasquatch that had driven the staff into my ground. I've also put up photos on my YouTube channel, both in videos and in the community section of the channel, of the orbs and sticks that have shown up in my property. A few days ago, 2 more sticks were jammed into my yard, and I've documented those circumstances on my channel as well with photos. I'll try to attach the photos in this email for you to see. Another creepy thing is when I used different filters and blew up the photo of the orb into a much larger format, I could see what looked like eyes and a face looking back at me. It's undeniable. Again, I'll try to attach the photos, or our viewers can see what I'm talking about on my channel and community section. Like you, I'm trying to expose these beings, and I believe they are modern-day Nephilim, as the late Scott Carpenter believed. I know you've heard people say this before, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating what's already been said here about them. I felt encouraged to write my story to you, and I hope that what I'm sharing adds to further helping people know and understand that we are not crazy when we witness these things, and that these beings are very real. I also believe there is a supernatural component to them. Thank you for all you do. You're a blessing. I agree with you. We must continue to speak the truth, even if we are ridiculed or mocked. If you'd like to see my video testimony, my experience with the Sabbath, all right, gotcha. I don't know you, and as you know, I do not promote people's channels when I do not have a clue who I'm talking to or what channel it is. Let me tap on that in a minute. This is not an attempt to advertise my channel, but it's possibly a better way for my story to be seen and heard in more depth than just an email. God bless you as you continue to speak the truth. All right, appreciate you. Oh, here's another email attached. Orb and staff photos. Gotcha. Okay, so if that's what you blew up from the orb thing, that does look a little odd, does it not? Looks a little creepy. The staff, I'd just call that a branch myself, or a stick. Very odd. And you're not the only one to have reported that. I also had somebody else, I've had 2 people, Somebody reported to me that they were walking up a trail with their wife, turned around, came back, lost all the juice to their phones and their video cameras or cameras, and here's this long stick like this jammed in deep into the trail that they just walked over top of, and they pulled that out and took it home. And then what else? A friend of mine owns a remote fishing lodge up the coast here. They went up that river with the Zodiac, parked, hiked up the river to take his clients fishing for coho salmon, spawning in the fall. Something screamed at them, scared the shit out of them. 2 days later, he went back, and there's an upside down log with roots sticking straight up and down out of the pool where they were a couple days previous. So there. What else can I tap on? Some people might get upset at me for not immediately sharing somebody's channel here. Just so you know, there is a lot of channels, and I'm not talking about this channel because I haven't seen this person's channel. I don't know who this person is. I know nothing. But I'll just touch on this for a second so everybody's clear of what I'm talking about. I've been duped in the past. Believe me, in the very beginning, some prominent names you probably know saw me as an opportunity to help promote them and sell shit for them. And it didn't take long for me to figure that out. But there's also, when it comes to this topic and more, there is a shit pile of people that are doing it predominantly for views. And it's very easy for me to see if I do see the channels that are doing that. It's not hard, you guys. You can put on great big, huge, attractive color titles over top of the thumbnail photo for the video, title it, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the whole 9 yards. Spooky music. What else? Animated voice, narrating, all the usual horse shit. I shouldn't say it that way. To each their own. Whatever you are attempting to do in this lifetime, to each their own. For me, I am very adamant about eliminating all and any absolute bullshit, pretentious shit, entertainment shit when it comes to this topic. I'm done with it. That's what made me come forward to do this. I never encourage anybody to like, subscribe, and share my channel once, and I won't. I don't give a flying shit if anybody subscribes or not. All I care about is getting as many people to speak openly as I can. That's what I'm about. Sorry for the bit of a ramble. So I hope people understand when I read off somebody, I got a YouTube channel. Oh yeah. Cool. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your motive is. I don't know anything. So that's why I omit that while I'm reading. Okay, you guys? I hope I just made sense there. Hope I didn't come across as a dick. Not trying to. But there you go. And there's the photos. Crazy. I appreciate you coming forward, speaking openly here. Big time. And I hope nothing negative comes forward to you while you're dealing with this topic. Now, what is this? Oh, hold on a minute. I'm totally getting my frickin' pictures mixed up, I think. Oh, this is the right email to go with the video and the photo. God, I'm an idiot. All right, hold on a minute. Let's mark this as red. I know, I'm confusing sometimes, but I get her done. A follow-up email with receipts. Hi, Steve. Thanks for sharing my story sent previously and not laughing out loud when I shared my theories of what I believe the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Grassman saw by subject. Please know that I thought a lot of what I now believe is fact. It was just crazy talk when I first heard it too. There is so much to this story that has to do with supernatural, spiritual, extraterrestrial, and God versus evil. Battle over humanity and the planet. Excuse me. So I will start off sharing my Bigfoot story with the evidence that I have. At the end of this email, I will then share some information just for you to ponder. If you decide to share it later, go right ahead. However, you may get yourself banned from YouTube immediately. If you want to keep your channel as it is, stay in the shallow waters where you just read people's stories and don't delve too deeply into the whys of everything. Why they're hunted, why they're not disclosed by higher-ups, etc. So I had to move to Prescott, Arizona in 2018. We lived in a home that was located within the Prescott National Forest at about 6,000 feet elevation. Most homes in our neighborhood were just weekend cabins, cottages owned by the people from out of town who sought refuge in the summer from the Arizona heat. We were full-timers and got to interact daily with the variety of forest creatures. Normally there were no issues except the occasional bear attacking the trash can or a cougar coming out of the porch. Prescott has a long history of Bigfoot sightings. The town namesake is an old volcanic plug called Thumb Butte. It had multiple lava tube caves and legends of these beings living in them. There are trails near the butte where there is so much evidence of the forest people. Multiple tree formations, large 50 to 100 foot trees bent over, but not by snapped, and many reported sightings. There's a particular area called Granite Mountain where many people go missing yearly. The first photo I will share was a tree formation found by my husband and myself when hiking with our dogs off of a well-known trail near a large creek. See the photos. There we go. Got it. And did I screw up there? We were several miles into the hike, at least 5 to 7 miles, when we came upon these tree huts. My husband is about 5'10", and our dog, shown in the first photo, is about 100 pounds. Both fit pretty easily into the structure. It was apparent that the logs were placed there. No cut with chainsaws or machine. Yes, at the same time, I had an impression that it was built to hold a juvenile. I pictured a bassinet/play in my mind. Why? Who the heck knows? So, during the almost 5 years that we lived in Prescott, at night I would hear multiple whoops, wood knocks, found large footprints on trails, etc. I quit gathering evidence as it was so abundant, and most people don't care about this stuff anymore. The whole footprint casts, recorded sounds, etc. have been done ad nauseum by those that research these beings. So I don't bother to share that stuff here. The second significant thing that happened, and I will share here, is that one evening, about a week after we installed a Ring doorbell camera, we captured an orb. Mind you, we installed that camera because we had multiple times we installed that camera because we had multiple times one knock on the door and the house, causing the dogs to go into a frenzy. I would go to the door and nothing was there. Yet the dogs, who both have strong prey drives and would chase down just about anything, would leave the door and go back into the house when I opened the door. I saw nothing, but honestly believed that they did. The videos to follow were recorded by the Ring door camera. The orbs observed for nearly 30 minutes. But I included 2 of the more important ones for your review. The others just show some sort of the same, the orb coming and going up to the front of the house. The longest one shows very good footage of how this orb would come up to the door and zoom back over to the carport, or car park as you would call it. The one was at the end of the sighting when the orb almost seemed to phase out and reappear in another position, before going away while making a popping sound. I want to also add that what was most interesting about this orb sighting was that the alert went off on my phone from the Ring device that the camera was recording. I looked at my phone and saw the orb showing, but when I went to the door and opened it, I could not see it with my naked eye. Plus, there was a really strong, rank odor, like skunk mixed with a trash bag, and needed to be taken to the bin. There's also something that made me feel very afraid. The dogs would not come outside with me, which was so strange, as they never passed up an opportunity to go out whenever the door was opened. They went back inside to hang up on my husband, who also, for some reason, was not interested in what was going on. Even as I was showing him the phone and with the orb on it, and saying, "You can't see it if you go out front." Golf was on, so I guess he was lost in the go chase the ball trap that has been devised to keep today's man comatose. Yeah, some, I guess. I don't know many of them myself. Bracket, give them bread in a circus and they will never revolt, said by Emperor of Rome. End bracket. I guess you could argue that these orbs could be anything paranormal. However, orbs and Bigfoots have been reported together multiple times. Also, the smell that was so strong completely went away as soon as the orb popped out. I was watching the videos on my phone from inside the house through the open window. I heard the popping sound as the orb disappeared on the phone video through the window, as it was just in front of that window when it left. The popping sound reminded me of an electrical popping sound that you hear if a fuse blows or an electrical arc comes off something. Crazy. It can be seen in video 1 that the orb made its own light. When it went back over to the carport, its light was reflected on the roof of the car park. Google's telling me that this email is too long to send, so I'll have to send another with more info that I want to share with you. Warmest regards, and thanks again for what you do. That was quite the video, don't you think? Quite the video. Obviously, video today, you can just about do anything. But one thing for certain, if you had to describe that video to somebody, you're going to describe possibly exactly how many people describe seeing in the woods and around their house, in the sky, in the trees, accompanying sightings of these forest people, right? So there you go. That's probably one of the most convincing orb videos I've ever seen myself. That one video, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen. It's been around for quite a while. It was called Ball Lightning. A round ball of energy floating across some train tracks in broad daylight. I don't know. That was something else. Have I ever heard of ball lightning? I've heard about it. Do I know about it? Nope. Do I? Yeah. I'll bite my lip there. Regardless, that's quite the video. Now let's have a look at this tree structure. Definitely a close-up. I mean, obviously anybody could have made that. Who knows? But we'll have to take your word for it. That was found in the middle of nowhere and put together. Would have been... you might have had more of an impact on the visual if you'd have panned back a little more from the photo. But there you go. That's nothing new to a lot of people, seeing these structures made in the woods. Don't know what it's about myself yet. A lot of people speculate, but I haven't been told directly by the maker myself. And it's so weird how so many human beings have absolute zero, nothing there when it comes to these topics, as in nothing. People that are close to me, friends of mine. I guess it just is the way it is. Some of us are there, some of us aren't. I don't know why. Very interesting. All right, I just had another one, a short one here. Somebody said, hey, I mailed you way before 2017. Maybe look under. Coastal property is part of your email. And I just did a search for all three of my inboxes. Came up as 0. Okay? So there you go. I don't know when you sent me this one. It must have been recently, but you're going to have to email me back. Okay, man? I looked. Didn't work out. Sorry, man. All right. Here's another one. Older one. No title. Howdy, Steve. A couple of years ago, YouTube suggested your channel and I subscribed. I'm glad I did. Little did I know how much I would need your help. 2019, I was invited to a camp at a large campground with my sister-in-law. She and her brother have a 40-foot camper that makes one feel like they're on vacation in a rustic, wooded, swampy setting. Throughout the summer, my sister-in-law... What? Makes you feel like you're on a vacation in a rustic, wooded, swampy setting. The swampy mansion with the camper is a little alarming. That's kidding. Throughout the summer, my sister-in-law would come back to the camper after work. But towards the middle of October, I spent many days alone. The campground slowly emptied as the end of the season came to a close. And as a result, I became the only person in this large campground. I like to be alone, so the thought of being there by myself was relaxing. The following is the first incident that didn't make any sense. Also, all of the night occurrences happened between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. I wonder why that is. That's such a typical time. In August, around 10 p.m., my sister-in-law, her sister, and I were walking back from the lake. Her sister suddenly became so frightened because she couldn't see the light on the light pole. That panic set in and she refused to move forward. We assured her that it was safe and we would be right beside her. Eventually she was able to calm herself and we were able to get her back to the camper. She's never acted that way. In early 2020, she and I spoke about what had happened in 2019 in more detail. She said that she had an uneasy feeling of being watched since leaving the lake, that the feeling was coming from the woods to the left and behind us. I'd written a short account of what had happened to me in the fall of 2019 to someone that you know, but did not receive a response. I understand how inundated he could be. What I wrote to him was lacking in details, and here's my updated story. In 2019, my dog is a red heeler and devoted to me so much that he can be quite a pain in my butt. He and I would go for walks during all hours of day and night, in and out of the woods. A few nights before things started to get weird, the manager of the campground caught up with me as I metal detected down by the lake. It was raining. We walked back to my camper, where I picked up an umbrella and walked her back to her camper. I felt uneasy, especially on my walk back with my dog. The next day, both she and my sister-in-law left, which left me alone for a week. It continued to rain. The following night, around 11 to 2:30, the dog started growling, got up and laid beside me. He would not leave my side. The next night, a huge, and I mean huge, slam hit the top of the camper. It was so loud that I thought a limb from a tree had fallen on us. There were smaller objects hitting the side of the camper as well. I just assumed the smaller objects hitting the sides was due to the wind blowing acorns. Thinking back, there was no wind, just rain. The next morning I looked for the limb, and there was nothing. The next night, Buddy, my dog, and I went for our nightly walk. It was around 10:30. On our way back, we were about 120 feet away from the camper when he stopped and looked up at me. I said something to him and then started forward. And he stopped again, looking up at me. I again said something as we started towards the camper. And after the next few steps, as he kept looking up at me, I was suddenly overwhelmed with a sense of fear. A fear so intense that I felt terrified to move. The woods became so loud with absolute quiet. The camper was now about 60 feet away. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that's where my fear was coming from. Where my fear was coming from was just inside the edge of the woods, about 20 feet past the camper. I could pinpoint the exact spot where the fear was coming from without being able to see through the darkness. I couldn't go backwards because there was no one to run to. I had no choice but to walk towards what was terrifying me. It was the most difficult thing I have ever done, trying to overcome the mind-numbing fear in order to just get to safety. As I got closer, the terrified feelings intensified to the point where I started shaking. I felt like I couldn't get in the camper fast enough, but I did, and immediately locked the door, closed all the blinds, then covered the edge of the blinds with towels so that no one could see inside. I thought maybe it was the two men that never got caught who robbed the gas station a couple months earlier. The dog wanted to go outside a few hours later, and I have to be honest here, I thought he can just pee on the floor. I'm not going out there again, but I did. I could barely make myself open the door. When the door opened, that terrified feeling overwhelmed me again. We went outside together. I couldn't go any further than 4 feet from the door. I called Buddy the dog as he was only a few feet away and went up the stairs backwards. A few days later, Buddy and I took a walk to the woods, came back to the campground via the road, and as we meandered down the road, I heard a loud crack. And about 50 yards ahead of me, a 40-foot dead tree came crashing down onto the road. During the summer, as my sister-in-law and I were sitting by the campfire, an owl started to hoot. She commented on how she hasn't heard one in a while. Bigfoot was never a thought until the following spring when I started watching your channel. The letters you were reading made my blood run cold. Even though there were uncanny coincidences, I wasn't able to believe what I had experienced was a Bigfoot. That happens to other people, not me. June 2020. It took me a few months to be able to go back camping again. I told my sister-in-law what had happened the previous year, and what I had learned from watching your channel was maybe what happened to me. She listened, but I knew she didn't believe that it could be a Bigfoot. I was adamant that she not let her small grandchildren walk alone at night, and I told her that if she heard children in the woods, not to go looking for them, because I couldn't stop talking about what had happened. How I was so fearful of going into the woods or being outside after dark. She started listening to your channel. I used to be so comfortable in the woods that my niece joked that if there were to be a zombie infestation, they were all hanging with me. We are now again coming off the same place as last year, close to the camper. The first hoot sounded normal. The second hoot sounded loud, raspy, with a lower tone than the first. A couple of days later, around 9:30 a.m., I went outside to light a fire. I heard what sounded like two pieces of wood hitting together. Only one knock coming from about 300 feet inside the woods. I identified the sound by what people had said they had heard on your channel. Immediately, I went into the camper. And as I shut the door, something small hit underneath the window. And for a week in the mornings, the same wood knock happened. It's now late September. The campground's emptying. 3 of us were sitting around the campfire when we heard a small bird off to the right. A few minutes later, the bird had moved in front of me, still in the woods. My sister-in-law went inside to make a phone call. Another few minutes passed. I again heard the bird, but this time it felt like it was about 20 feet away and to my left. I asked my friend beside me if she wanted to go in. She said no, but I felt something strongly telling me to go inside, and I did. The following weeks, my 17-year-old neighbor would sit around the campfire with me, and I asked him if he had heard unusual sounds that night. He said one night around 11 p.m. he unzipped his tent when he heard this terrible sound like a raccoon being killed right outside his tent. Another time he heard from far away what sounded like a mother yelling at children to quiet down. The camper felt like he was being nudged softly every night. Wondering if it was my imagination, I watched my drink to see the liquid did gently move. Sitting around the campfire, I heard footsteps right behind us as we sat talking. I didn't say a thing. The dog and neighbor didn't react at all. I asked a store clerk that said she lived close to the campground if she had ever heard if she had ever heard noises at night. She said she had when she took her dog out around 11 p.m. and it was a bobcat, not to go into the woods. Later on, I showed her the pictures that I took of the footprints. She looked at them in disbelief. I saw structures of trees and saplings broken, bent, and crossed across each other just outside the campground entrance, as well as poorly constructed stacked wood blinds in the woods that looked right into campsites on the other side of the campground. In the woods and in our campsite, there are trees jammed into the ground with no roots. Some trees with the tops going into the ground. Small saplings bent towards each other, creating a canopy. Sticks and small branches manipulated together hanging from trees. Other trees just snapped off about 8 to 10 feet up. Still, I didn't want to believe. Some smaller saplings were cut down near the edge of the road on a campsite. I got tired of stepping on them, so one day I dug them up and then raked the ground smooth. The next morning, there was one large footprint, about 15 inches long. I said to myself, no way. Showed my sister-in-law when she arrived from work and asked her if she believed now. She said it kind of confirms that they are real. So I repeated the raking. The next morning, there were more footprints of 3 sizes. The following morning, there were a lot of footprints in the dirt, as well as up beside the camper. It was then when I totally accepted the fact that Sasquatch were around. The footprints consisted of a smaller print about 9 inches long, another approximately 15 inches long, and yet another that measured 19 inches long, which had a space between the ball and the heel of the foot. After admitting to myself they were real, the following day I took the dog for a walk into the woods. Approximately 300 feet in, I distinctly heard in my mind, "See, you don't have to be afraid." Thinking, what the hell, I continued to walk following the road/path. The dog and I took a left into a large part of the woods that had been clear-cut that spring. There were many 100-plus-year-old trees that had been removed, specifically 4 on each side of the path. On each stump, there were 2 acorns on a single stem. In the last week, the clear-cut looked like it was being prepared for hunting since older deer trails had been blocked by freshly broken or bent trees. There were smaller piles of brush built around or near the newly created trails. One thing that stood out like a sore thumb was a huge tree placed across 2 broken-off upright trees to form something that looked like the letter H. I felt uncomfortable to finish the long walk through the shaded woods, so I turned around, heading back to the camper, And two nights later, as I was drifting off to sleep, 4 piercing, sharp, clear, crisp, extremely high-pitched, shrieking screams tore through the night. I didn't feel the energy of the scream like others have described. The shrieking scream filled the air, leaving no room for any other sound. I remember you referencing a scream as to a man getting his balls ripped off. I did. That was about as close a description I've heard. Or the scream made me think of the type of noise that an animal would make as it was slowly being killed. It's pretty creepy. The next morning I asked my sister-in-law if she had heard the scream. I looked at her in shock when she said no. Lastly, as she and I were preparing to leave, I happened to glance across to the edge of the woods and saw a small, freshly snapped branch about 7 feet up. And it seems to me that once I acknowledged they were around, there was little effort to hide their existence. I do have one question that maybe you could help me with. Since every year more evidence of their presence has been shown, do you think next year will be worse? Maybe someone you have spoken with may have some insight. Thank you so much for your personal dedication towards the subject. Thank you for allowing the subject and your no-nonsense platform to be seen and used by anyone. But most of all, I want to thank you for your support by encouraging courage to face something that is so messed up. That what I have experienced is real and I'm not crazy. You're a good man. Yeah. Holy cow, Leanne. There's a whole pile in there that obviously has been going down with how many other people writing in and sharing the same thing? It's a lot, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, so far from what I understand, especially from my superhero ladies, they told me flat out, you can command them to leave you alone. It's the word on the street. It seems to work for a lot of people. Some people it doesn't. Rebuking them in the name of Jesus Christ seems to have worked for Scott Carpenter, and a bunch of other people that he was in contact with. We've heard that dozens of times. Dozens and dozens of times of that working. So it doesn't sound like you are looking to make contact with these beings to me. I don't know if you are or not. And I'm not quite certain yet if that's a good thing or not, is intentionally looking. But obviously, once they know you know, they don't really hide it too much, do they? Anyway, go with your gut. Every single move you make in life, go with your gut, especially around that campground. Go with your gut. Your gut will answer you far more clear than I will or anybody else will. It's your gut knows. You already know the answers to most of our questions, I believe. We just got to get through all this fog that's been wrapped around us intentionally so we can see and hear clearly again, right? Again, take note so we can hear and see clearly again. It's coming. It's a frustrating ride, but being frustrated means that you're learning and you're changing and you're getting better. Anyway, speaking of getting better, I've been putting it off, but I got to put on my rain gear and dive into this storm and fix things on this damn boat because I have a lot of people from here coming with me to go fishing out there soon. Email us back again with any updates of what has happened in your campground, of your life. If you have something you want to share with the people that's going to help us, please do. And anybody else, share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you're going to get it read word for word. This is the safe place. There's no bullshit here. And there's nobody controlling you here. You want to share it? Let's get shared. All right? Now, here I go. Back tomorrow.